So, good evening, everyone. If you'd like to take your seats, we might start. Is this your light on here? No. Blue tacked on, is it? Okay, fair enough. We'll just wait. John's coming through. Okay, well, good evening, everyone, and welcome. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Diane. I'll be your MC tonight. First of all, we're doing our escape routes either side and out through the front door should we need to evacuate. Toilets, far right corner on the left, and please put your phones on silent or switch them off, whichever. Do we have any visitors or potential? Yes, good evening, welcome. It's your first visit? Nice to see you again. Enjoy the evening. Mike's not here, but I assume, was there anybody that went on the Mount Cook trip? Was it good? You enjoyed it? Yep. Did you have a good amount of snow? Yep. Okay, we'll look forward to the images. Yeah, I'm going to Queenstown next week, so I'm hoping we'll get some snow. I enjoy the snow. So, what have we got tonight? Ian wants to chat about an autumn-winter workshop series, so before we go any further. Oh, you're on your own.
Here we go. Oh, we're working. Tonight's a sneak preview of where the planning's going for the autumn-winter series. You'll remember that right early on in the year we talked about spending the money that we made at the convention last year with a series of autumn workshops. So that's progressed to the point where basically I'm going to announce it tonight, but within the rest of the week, within a week, you'll get a formal notification of what's going on. So what is happening is we've put out a survey and collected some possibilities for workshops, and now we've made some decisions about which ones we're going to run. We're going to run two-day workshops over the weekend of 8th of 9th of October. The first one will be street photography based. It's a bit more than just street photography, run by Tony Bridge, who's coming up from Te Anau for that. And the second one is called Creative Wild Child by Judy Stent and Gail Stent. Yeah, Judy. I knew I got myself confused there. Judy and Gail. Just leave it at Judy and Gail. Two South African ladies who are absolutely fantastic, and they're going to do this thing called Creative Wild Child, and that'll be spectacular. And the third option is single day bird photography field trips with Steve Atwood, and they will be run probably the week before or the week after that. So what will happen is within a week you'll get an advertorial, which is basically get emailed to everybody outlining what I've just said, and you need to look at it, have a bit of a think about which one you'd like to do, and then towards the end of the month, and I don't know the day yet, but that will be on the advertorial email, you'll get told a day that our applications open. The idea is that it's available for everybody. We're not 100% sure how many people are going to turn up. We've based our numbers on the sort of numbers we've got from previous workshops and from the feedback of what people wanted to do. So we're fingers crossed. So if everybody applies within the first 3 days to do the the street photography one, and it's full, then it's full when it's full. So that's what's going to happen. So you need to think about which ones you want to go, and you need to put your name down as quickly as you can. And we did say free early on in the proceedings, but we've decided to make a small charge which covers a number of things like catering and some admin things and just some bits and pieces, and that'll be $30. So you need to commit $30, lock in the weekend and decide which one you want to do, and expect a further notification later this week, and then in about 2 weeks we want you to nominate which one you would like to do and come along all enthusiastic on that weekend of 8th, 9th of October. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. That sounds interesting. I shall wait with bated breath. We'll see how that's going to work. Look forward to it. Jane's asked me tonight to remind everybody that the C-grade projected image competition and the C-grade print competition closes tonight at 11:59. Prints are to be put onto the front of the stage, and regarding the printing, make sure you put your digital thumbnail on the site as well, so don't forget that. The next competition's closing, open projected, closes next Wednesday, 24th. And is that right, 24th? No, on the 24th of August anyway, it's not next week, sorry. The natural history projected also closes on the 31st of August. Now we've got a little AV. John is going to come up and explain what that's about, and Alistair will start the ball rolling in a minute.
Thank you. Hi, we advertised that we were going to show some prints tonight. I've been in contact with North Shore. Is this making a noise? Yeah. I've been in touch with North Shore, and they did try to get some prints down. They were going to send us 18 prints for the top awards in the North Shore Salon, which was recently held. And those prints would have been for the 3 medals in each of the categories. But unfortunately, they didn't have an opportunity to get them here in time. So they sent me a video 56 minutes long. We're not going to see 56 minutes tonight. I've done my best to cut it down so that it covers all of the gold, silver and bronze medals and honours, plus any other awards that were received by people from CPS. If I've missed somebody, I'm sorry. I did my best to make sure that I captured everybody in the video, but it was quite a bit of a process to try and cut everything else out. So, no further ado, I'll let the video run.
Okay. Wow. That was actually really nice to see them all up there, and well done to everybody. Hope you enjoyed that. I did, and thank you, John, for putting that together. Not sure if you're aware, but a number of our members had images selected by the PSNZ for the Four Nations competition. Unfortunately, New Zealand became last. Somebody's got to come forth, I suppose, but Australia was the overall winner. I haven't seen the images, but I was talking to James before, and he said we need to get more people entering. So perhaps next year, more of you might consider putting in images through the PSNZ for selection. I don't know how many we need. Did you say about 500, and they didn't get that this year? So, and they've got to pick 80 odd. So, got to be in it to win it. So maybe we can move our position up from fourth in future. So now Ian wants to chat to us about the subject tonight, which is the I've forgotten the set challenge. Sorry, I can't read my scribble. Okay, thanks, Ian.
Right, get the computer. First of all, we need to say congratulations to Diane. That was pretty much a Diane Kelsey extravaganza, the North Shore, wasn't it? It was awesome. Hang on, right. There we go, we're away. Right, the Set Challenge 2022. Here we go. Let's start with a little bit of history of this event, which we've been running here. It's been going for the last 8 years, and it started, basically I started it because I was really keen to get people thinking in terms of project type photography instead of just single image stuff, which is what happens quite a lot with club photography. So I just wanted to shift the emphasis a little bit. So we've had all sorts of entries. So pretty much anything's possible. There's been calendars, there's been handmade extravaganza books, there's been tiles made into cup holder things, there's been cups, there's been, you name it, people have done it. There's been all sorts of things happened over the years. And the thing that's happened is the entry numbers have changed significantly. I had some notes here that are not turning up on my PowerPoint, so I'm just going to wing this and do it from memory. Entry numbers have changed. The first year we did it, we got 25. The second year, it was a couple short of that, was 23, 22. The last 2 or 3 years has been somewhere in between 10 and 12. So it's been steadily declining. So I want to change things a little bit this year, basically to make it easier. I want everybody to have a go, is where I'm coming from with this. So the aim is participation. I really want to see those numbers up. As I said, entry options are going to be really simple, so there's no reason to not do it. Lots of people say to me afterwards, we come along to the presentation night and they see some of the spectacular things and they go, well, I should have done that, I could have, would have, should have, and then they never do it, and then they don't do it again the next year. So this year, it's going to be so simple that you have absolutely no excuse. You could go home and do it tonight if you really wanted to. We're going to be working with multiple images. That's the whole kind of point of this. Working with multiple images, that's something that's a little bit foreign to club photographers. We tend to work in individual image things. We put in an individual image for every competition that we've ever joined. We go on PSNZ competitions, we enter NATEX, whatever we do, we put in an individual picture. And that goes on most of the way through our development as photographers until we apply for an honours, PSNZ honours thing. And suddenly the whole thing's changed and people start thinking in a different perspective, and it takes a mindset change because it's something that people haven't done before. That is exactly the reason that I introduced this set challenge, so that we're going to have opportunities at CPS to go and have a bit of a go with various sets, and then as you get good at it and as you start thinking in the right way, you're going to be able to transition on to get your PSNZ honours when you come to doing that. I want to encourage the creative entries as well. In previous set challenge competitions, we've probably pushed that barrier a little bit further. I made a big song and dance about, and some of the other ones about getting the image out of your computer and up onto the wall or onto the table or anywhere, just out of a computer and turned it into a physical thing. What happened when I got that happening was amazing. There were some really extraordinary things happened. The thing though is, the creative people who have a go at these things, in order to go, the ones who do the best, the ones who go completely nuts, don't need any encouragement from me. They just need an excuse. So here's the excuse, it's still here, go nuts, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what you come up with. However, that's as far as we're going to go when it comes to talking about it. I'm going to really push the other side of things this time. So, if we are talking about multiple image construction of bodies of work, we need to think about the building blocks of those blocks of work. Obviously, the building block of a multi-image set is a single image. So we need to start thinking about, and we need to try and understand what that single image is saying and how we can use that, what's important when it comes to combining that with other images in your set. So we need to think about the single image before we step it together. So we need to ask ourselves the question, what is the image about? The images within a set or a body of work or whatever you want to call it, a book, a calendar, or anything, really need to relate to one another. So at each individual image stage, if you understand and you have a good concept in your head when you're building it about what that image is about, and you make the other images within that set about something similar, that's the way to go. So let's think about some possibilities when it comes to thinking about what an image is about. An image could be about character. It could be about setting. Action, perhaps. Relationship. Relationships in general, just relationships between things. Could be about conflict or contrast. It could be mysterious. Or it could follow a theme. There's others, but those are a good starting point to think about at an individual image level what it is you're looking at. Let's go through these one at a time. Character. I like to think about it in terms of a kind of small y, like why at the small stage, why have I made this image? So that's the question I asked when it comes to character. Why am I making this image? So ask yourself, who are my characters in my image? Are the characters crystal clear? Is anybody going to be able to look at this image and understand what characters there are? Is it simple? Are all the characters that you're showing us essential to what the image is about? Do they relate to the setting that's here? So maybe it's a bit about setting as well. And what's the story? Or maybe it's just a mysterious story. Those are the things to ask about character. You could ask about, what am I revealing about my characters? And am I doing that in a way that others will care about them? Others will feel a degree of empathy. Is that what you're trying to do? If you can understand that and make it happen across multiple images, that's a good way to go. Or perhaps the story is about the character, or is it about the setting, or is it about both? What is it? Putting together an image that is sort of character-based, that is solely a tight, portrait-orientated character study with something like this, which is it's a little bit about character, but it's a lot about setting, would be more difficult. And then it comes to character as well. Is this of interest to anybody other than his family? If it isn't, how can you make it so? Or how can you make it more interesting and more generic when it comes to your picture making? So that's character. Let's have a think about action. Something has to happen for an image to be about action. So there needs to be an action event within the image. So ask yourself, why is this happening? To whom? By whom? And with what results? Same thing. What has happened? What's about to happen? And where is it happening? Those questions all relate to the action side of things. Conflict and contrast. Photographically, we represent contrast with a juxtaposition. And I'm not sure whether the juxtaposition here is the bald head or what, or is it just the fact that he looks like a happy man? But the juxtapositions we think about is sort of big versus small, old versus young, serious perhaps against silly, modern versus ancient. Contrast could be man versus man versus nature, or man versus himself. Sometimes a contrast can be implied, might not be true. Why did the little girl drop her shoe? Is there a sinister feeling there? Or maybe she was just exhausted at the end of a wonderful day and her mum's just found out that there's no shoe there and they were the ones that Grandma gave, and there's a whole nother story back behind there. But there is a potential about contrast that can be implied and is not necessarily true. Relationships. An image about relationships is best simply told by the characters within your frame. Who they are to each other will suggest the kind of action that is occurring, and it'll add some context to the setting that's happening here. When there's some context, when there's an understanding about what's happening between the people that you're seeing, that allows a viewer, any viewer, to look at it and to put themselves in that situation and make their own story. We can look at this and we can see that it's in an airport. There's an implication that somebody's going or somebody's coming. We've all been there. So we can then relate back to that and to how we've been there in our own part of the story. What is the relationship that's being displayed here? Is this a teacher-student relationship? And how does that explain what's going on in this image? I think that's hinted at enough so that you can make your own story about that. Sometimes the relationship is just quiet togetherness. And for me, this image is about quiet togetherness. If I was going to try and build a set around quiet togetherness, this would be a really good place to start. And then I could build other things around that. Move on to setting. How much of the setting or context do I provide? What role does that play within the story? And how does that relationship between the characters and the setting work? Setting could be something as simple as darkness. It also could be a grand landscape, but it could be something simple like darkness. The image could be pretty much all about setting, and then you look at this and you go, yes, but it is about setting, but it's also got some characters. The clouds, the sunshine, and the light splash are characters within this image. Or the characters could be just the birds and how they relate to the setting. Some images which are about setting have a really strong sense of place. And you need to ask yourself what visual cues give them that sense of place. Has the setting helped the story? Is the setting a big part of the story? Or is it just a contributing element? And what connection is implied between the characters and the setting? And is that connection clear and easy to understand? Mystery. We end up asking questions. What are they looking at? What's happened? What's about to happen? What would happen if something else happened? Different image, but exactly the same questions. What are they looking at? What's happened? What's about to happen? What would happen if? All good questions to help you understand what your image is about. Another mysterious one. Who are they? Image is not telling you. But does it tell you something about these people? I think it does. He's got red shoelaces, for goodness sake. There's something being told here about the people and about the characters, but it's mysterious. What's at the top of the stairs? Who's the person? Where are they going? What's the implied story? Another mysterious thing. So, now we've looked at an image, we've thought about what is it about. The next step is now we want to move towards putting some images together, in other words, making a set. Oops, go back, went too far. Multiple images about the same or a similar thing strengthen the message. That's what we're trying to do. So we can put the images together in things like photo books, essays, they could all be on a blog, they could be on an AV, could be an honours set. If this kind of thing looks familiar, that's exactly what I'm hoping that the set challenge will encourage you to do. So this is what we're all about, putting images together. Honours sets. I'm going to illustrate again a little bit more about this honours sets things by working through two successful honours sets that I had. So it's a really good opportunity to get things out of the cupboard where they normally hide and talk about them. Honours sets are often, as I said before, the first time a club photographer starts to think in terms of a project. And people spend a good portion of their time trying to understand how and why we should be putting these things together. Over the years, the emphasis within the honours system and the way honours sets change a little bit over time, but the essence and the requirements remain the same. That is, quality images working together in a cohesive manner. Newell's going to talk about this in a few weeks' time again, so if anybody's starting to think about honours, start thinking about it with the set challenge, then take it to the next step, and you've actually got plenty of time until the middle of next year to work on it. So I fully encourage anybody to have a go at that. Let's have a look at my A set for a start. This was a print set, entered in 2009, and it was called The Streets of Asia. I was flying to and from Asia quite a lot at that time, so I made this set over the couple of years before there. I broke this down during the construction phase of these into themes. The themes I used were bicycles, people being people, through, and you don't see that on Colombo Street. I actually wrote all those things down on the pages of a notebook. When I started breaking down, I just started making pictures, and then I started breaking things down into categories, into within themes, and started making things in sets of about, basically. The themes were the subject of the overall, the themes were a subset of the overall project or the story, if you want to view it that way. So bicycles, there's a hell of a lot of bicycles in Asia, so I just went looking for bicycles, and that was really easy thing to do. I arrived somewhere with my camera and I walked out and I went, I need some more bicycle pictures, and I had something to go and focus on and look for, and bicycles popped up everywhere, and they were one set. People being people, playing mahjong, feeding each other from a takeaway thing. They were just people photographs of ordinary things in a slightly foreign situation for me, but I went out looking for people doing recognisable things that I would see anywhere in the world. I started out trying to incorporate some of the architecture, the different architecture in Southeast Asia, and that was really hard because I've got a set of work that I'm over-titling, calling The Streets of Asia, and the buildings on the side of the streets of Asia are something completely different. They're not the streets. They never fitted. I couldn't fit them in the same thing because they weren't about the same. They weren't about that Streets of Asia thing. But as soon as I discovered I could incorporate the people, which is really what the story is here, people on the streets within spaces in the architecture, that really worked. And some of my favourite pictures, the one down here I call Friends from Singapore, is one of my favourite ever pictures. And they were created by going and finding spaces and then just waiting for people to walk into them. And the last one was, you don't see that on Colombo Street, and that was really easy to do because anything that blew my mind fitted in the you don't see that on Colombo Street category. So those sub-themes, there were a couple of others that never made it to the final cutting table, but that's a really good way to start making building blocks of sets. The other way to do it, or another way to do it, and this is literally how I did this one, is to get yourself a shot list and to go there with a preconceived idea of the things that you're going to look at and how that works. The shot lists relate to different parts of the story or different points of view, and the pieces to come together so that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And that's exactly what working in projects is all about. This shot list thing is very much how movie making works. So, this was my fellowship set. It was a print set entered in 2014, made at the Writing for Disabled with a little girl named Tessa. And as I said, I had a definitive set of shot lists. I was looking for an establishment shot. I looked for some details. I looked for unusual points of view. I looked for some action, and I looked for some relationships. That's the establishment shot that made the cut. Some little details that tell you a little bit about what goes on in Tessa's life and how small she was compared to the horses. Unusual points of view. This one's primarily about her mum. This is also a slightly unusual point of view, but it is about action, and there were some action shots in there. And the people involved in the Writing for Disabled, it's a place where there's lots of wonderful relationships to be seen everywhere. So I went there with a specific shot list, collected images, and put them together in that subset, or that fellowship set. Okay. that was a slight detour. That was just a where you can go with this kind of thinking that always kind of relates back to that about stuff. So back to the point of tonight and the set challenge 2022. This is the point where you get out your notebook and you start writing down some dates and times and considerations in the challenges. Here's the dates bit. Hand and date, 28th of September. So you've got about 6 weeks, but as I said before, you could do it tonight if you want to, except we haven't set up the entry yet, so don't do it tonight, but you can do it tonight, but you won't be able to enter yet. And the presentation is October the 5th, which means I'm going to have a really busy week between September the 28th and October the 5th, so if you want to get them in early, I would appreciate it, so I get a look at them earlier than that. Here's the deal. Entry options. 1, anything goes. This is the creative bit where I want to throw it back to all those people who make wonderful things. Make me some wonderful things, and we can fill a table with really cool stuff and inspire people. So anything you want in that section. The second set is the digital part of it, and this is the bit that's going to be, I think, at a level that everybody can be involved. Trilogies. We'll come and talk about that in a minute. So, anything goes. Anything goes could be a book. It could be a calendar. If you made a calendar last year or you're going to make one for this year. Could be a box of prints. I don't know if you remember when Anne Worthy was here a couple of weeks ago. She showed us a little box that she makes up and uses as one of her sales things. That would be actually quite a cool thing and a relatively simple thing to do. Get some of those mats that Nelson was talking about a couple of weeks ago and put a few of those together, build yourself up a box, and you've got a box of prints that can sit on your coffee table and people can pick up and look at it. Actually, that's back to the getting things out of the computer. Or anything else you like. Go for it, Joe. I hope you're watching. So Joe and Helen have done some incredibly spectacular things, so I hope they're listening and they're ready to go with something new. But it must be, so it can be anything, but there must be multiple images and it must be a physical thing. So this is the get the image out of the computer part of it. That's the anything goes category. So let's talk briefly about this multiple images thing. Multiple images versus single images. Why is it that I'm rabbiting on about multiple images, and why do I want you to think that way? Why do I want you to also think in terms of project-orientated photography? Let's have a think about that. How does a single image work as an expression of something? What is actually happening when you see a successful single image? I reckon you're seeing a representation of a peak action. It could be light, gesture, or timing. It could be the golden hour. That could be the peak part of it, or it could be a peak moment in time. It could be that decisive moment they talked about, or it could be when it comes to portrait photography, it could be that perfect expression, which is the gesture, which is the high point in gesture. So it's a high point in any one of those things. But you only get to see one peak action moment, and it has to be perfect. What happens if there are multiple action points that give an expression about something broader and wider? That's where multiple images come in. Often you'd say, if you're going to put your entry in the next projected image and you've got 4 images that you made on the Laurie Thomas standing pretty much in the same spot or in the same thing, and they're all pretty good, which one is the best is the question that you're asking yourself before you go select and go. And so let's have a think about which one is the best and why is it the best? Which moment is the best? Which perspective is the best? Which mood is the best? or which subject is the best. Multiple images that relate to each other, and that's the key, that relate to each other, can offer alternate bests and can offer the viewer a broader expression of understanding. Different viewers will look at those. If you were able to put in 4 of the ones that you were choosing from, there's a really good chance that the judge is not going to choose the one that you chose. He might have given the one that he thinks is best, or she, an honours, and the one that you think is best gets an acceptance. Both okay, but if you put the other one in, you might have got it. Just because different people have different views about what's the best. Everybody who views an image brings their own experiences to that viewing moment. And it's their experiences, which you can't predict, that determine what is best for them and how they best explain that situation. So by using multiple images, we can develop a depth of understanding, and we can offer a variety of explanations, and so we can cover a wider gambit of life experienced viewers. That's the point of using multiple images. So, the set challenge, trilogies. Trilogies is 3 images. It's the simplest form of a project. One is obviously a single image, so that doesn't count as a project. And judges always tell us never to use 2, so I'll go with that. Never use 2. 3 is the simplest form of something that could be a project. 3 can also be a building block. You can put sets of 3 together, 3 sets of 3, and you're really close to an L set, as a matter of, back to that honours thing. 4 sets of 3, and you've got an A set. Or you've got a calendar. 5 sets, and you've got a little fold-out book that can sit on the table. Sometimes building things up in sets of 3s that relate in slightly different ways is a really good way of building a bigger set. So I'm going to start for this set challenge and ask everybody to make a set of 3. I want you to make 3 images that are about the same theme or place or subject or mood or anything else you can think of that works. And in fact, anything else that makes the 3 images relate together. So that's the key, the 3 images relating together with anything that works for you. Here's a few other things about trilogies. They're not triptychs. Well, they sort of are, but, and I'm going to describe how I want these presented in a minute, I think of a triptych as basically a single image which has 3 image components. They're chopped up but they combine so tightly together, you've probably all seen lots of triptychs that are all framed together or they're part of a bigger picture, all that sort of stuff. Those are possibilities. You can also make 3 individual images that relate together well and call it a triptych. So I want to use that end of the triptych scale if you're going to insist that it is a triptych. A triptych I've defined here as 3 images that are combined together to create a single image, whereas a trilogy, I want them to remain as 3 individual images that are expressed together. They relate to one another, but they remain individual images. However, I want you to present them together. Let's have a look at a few that I have prepared earlier. These are 3 images that I made on the Laurie Thomas Winter School. Basically, what was happening was that we were down by that little lake and there was a whole half this room-sized area of willow trees that were everywhere. The light was shining, it was quite cool, but it was chaotic. There were trees everywhere. So I spent about half an hour or so trying to find simplicity within the chaos. So that's what these are about. They're about simplicity within chaos. And there's perhaps a little bit of mystery in the dark one as well. So, simplicity. Again, Laurie Thomas Winter School. It was all about the texture of the ice. The ice had a glass-like quality. So I made some images that looked like broken glass, and there's some other stuff with things that within the glass. That's how I set them together. And I want you to think about how you could hang those 3 pictures on the wall and they would sit there as individual pictures. So imagine that's what you're doing when you're constructing this set. Imagine that you're putting 3 pictures together and hanging them on the wall. Or you could hang them vertically. Again, 3 images hanging on the wall. These are all 3 images that have different views of the same subject. It was made at exactly the same spot with exactly the same camera and exactly the same lens. Oh no, the top one was a different lens. But the bottom 2 were the same lens, but it's at the same spot. They're 3 different views of a same waveform, so they relate together in that respect, yet they are quite different pictures. I don't think this fits in the trilogy category, the triptych category at all. Or it could be quite close. Treatment is similar, they work similarly, but they collectively work together to talk about drama and majesty and doubtful sound. Another way to think about this and to do that is to represent, think about laying this out so that it represents a double-page spread in a book. These shots are all about place. They all work together with different details that add together to make a broader, stronger story about this particular place. I did all those in Lightroom, and it was a relatively simple thing. I'm going to do a little detour from this program at the moment and show you exactly how I did them in Lightroom. So here's a little Lightroom lesson. If I can get this to work. Whoops, where's my mouse gone? I have to use my finger. I didn't mean to do that. Lightroom. Okay, there's some... going to have to... I'll see if I can slide it across. Which way is it? Here we go. Nope. Can we go back and duplicate the screen, Alistair? Oh, do I? Here we go. Duplicate. Go away. Come back. Right. So there's a random collection of pictures in the library. Go to the print section. So that's a print, the print, whatever it's called, module, and select custom package. So the third one down, see at the top there, it's got single image, picture package or custom package. If you go to custom package, you'll then get a page down to the right where it says page setup. You can choose in the page size, drop down window, whatever you want, or you can put in a user defined one. I did one that was sort of 2:1 aspect ratio, but this one's not, so I'll just leave it the way it is. And then you need to drop some cells on it. The ones I'm going to use are 3:2, so I'm going to select, see if I can get them. There we go, the mouse is working now. See the mouse is coming across. I'm going to say, let's take that 12 by 8, and it selects me a frame. I'll bring it down to about there. I'll get another one. Bring that down to about there. And now I want a square one. There's no squares, so I'll take that and I'll go up there. I can make myself up one, edit, 12 by 12. And to make a square, go add that. It makes me a square. Put that there. And then I just have to drop them in. There we go. That's all that's involved in making one of these images. When you come down to print job, it's already defaulted. Normally it'll be sitting there at printer. If you've got your printer set up, you just select that to JPEG and whatever mode you want, JPEG quality, all those sort of things. Print to file. It'll ask you where to put it, what you want to call it, save it. You've done. That should take you no less than 5 minutes, no more than 5 minutes. So it's not hard to enter these things. Back to this. It worked. Okay. Obviously you can do it in Photoshop as well, and there's probably a bajillion other ways to do it, but I just wanted to show you a really simple way to do it straight out of Lightroom, straight from your in library mode. You can collect, fiddle, rearrange, do as much as you like to get those sets together, and then just plonk them into the print module and output them as a JPEG and enter the JPEG in the competition. So, back to the Set Challenge 2022. Oh, thanks, Dennis. Nearly finished, so I don't need it too much. Remember these dates. Hand-in date, September the 28th. Presentation date, a week after. You're going to make something and produce a physical thing, or maybe you've already made it and you just want to bring it along. That's absolutely fine. I have no problem with people entering a physical thing and a trilogy, but I want everybody to have a crack at entering a trilogy. As I said, the simplest form of project and a building block to go from there. Are there any questions? Is everybody going to do it? Yeah. Are we going to have more than 10?
Yes, of course. Will you be sending out some information?
We'll set up an entry point on the...
Just regarding the dates and keys. Because I got my pen and I didn't get my phone out.
I'll put it on the Facebooks and we'll...
Do it on the next update.
Yeah.
Just the basics.
So it'll be just under a competition entry, and we can put it out, you know, to say when it's going to be. John, sorry. Which one's the? I don't want you to. You can print them if you want to. I've got no problem with that, and you can print big as you like, or you can enter them just as a digital file at a standard size. In fact, the website can. It's not actually that tough about it. You can enter them whatever size you like, whatever they pop out at, and they'll all get presented here. So you can be a digital entry. You can print them if you want to, like that. But the point of what I was trying to say is that's how you can make a digital. Because I printed a JPEG out of Lightroom. So it's just made another digital file that'll turn up on your desktop or wherever you put it, and then you can enter that via the normal stuff.
Three separate photos, if you don't have Lightroom, then put them all as one file.
You can. I think we're going to set up I'd rather you found a way to get them through Photoshop or through something. If you can't, get somebody to help you, and if you can't, enter 3. I don't mind. I need to see 3. The reason I wanted people to arrange them is because arranging is a significant part of organising in a set. If you've got 3 pictures that are all the same aspect, which one goes first, which one goes in the middle, and which one is at the end, changes how they relate to each other. You can call them number 1, 2 and 3 if you like, and I'll plonk them into a thing. James?
I was just going to suggest maybe if we have a free 7 o'clock session a week or 2 before, we could
We could.
people who have laptops and libraries come and
Good idea.
use your facility.
Yeah, we could actually, even if there's a 7 o'clock session already going, we can bring some laptops here and do that. But definitely we can do that, and we can have a think about it. But a worst case scenario, I'm not going to be upset if we get 3. We'll just have to figure out how we can make that entry happen. Any other questions? So, I'd like a show of hands as to who is going to enter this year, please. That's more than 10. If there's only 10, I'm going to be grumpy. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks, Ian. That's information overload, but hopefully we've all got a clear idea of what we're going to do. I'm not sure I have, but hey-ho. I do struggle with putting sets together, but I think when you said sets of 3, that makes they're sort of bite-sized pieces, and I think probably most of us could tackle, 3 views of something to make one thing and then move on to something else. So that's a little bit more user-friendly, I think, as a start. Okay, I don't know if anybody got anything else they want to add tonight or draw our attention to. Are we doing supper or... Yes, there is supper. Thanks, John. So join us afterwards for supper. I believe next week the hall's not available at 7 o'clock. Sorry? Oh, we're here next week, are we? Oh. I must have misread that. Okay. I'll have to wait.
Yeah, that's what she's saying.
Sorry? There's just... So there's no 7 o'clock session next week, or there is? Sorry. Oops, sorry, I thought I'd... Oh, well, I was just going to say, I think, is it Ilan Wittenberg would be talking next week at 8 o'clock about his... Will he be here, or is it a Zoom session? Zoom session, talking about his latest exhibition, Faces of Humanity. Should be interesting. Plus the results of the open projected portrait competition. So we'll just wait to find out whether there is a 7 o'clock session next week. No? No 7 o'clock next week. Okay, so I was right. Okay, that's all right. Thanks. I was right. Yes. Okay, no, sorry. I thought I'd misread it. I do get a little bit sidetracked. Just remains to thank you all for coming tonight and thank all the volunteers, which I've got on the next page. Okay, open and close was Dennis. Projection was, I was going to say Alan, but it's Alistair. Meet and greet Dennis and Ian, I think. The boys at the back, I think we have Gordon and, I can't see, Wayne. Yep, hi, thanks very much. And yeah, safe trip home, everyone. And have a cup of tea first before you leave. Take care. See you next week. Bye.